Hey guys, so we have a late entry in the battle of the browsers and I'm going to talk about it today. It is the Brave browser. So I'd like to thank Jacob Mealy for recommending this one to me. It's a very interesting browser. I'll talk a little bit about it today. I've been using it as my primary browser for the past week, I would say. We talked about it on the podcast a fair bit. I didn't know as much about it then as I do now, but it's worth checking out, so I'll put a link to it down in the description below. It's interesting in a number of ways. How it's put together, how it's built, the fact that it's available for Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android, which is great. It's a very new browser. It doesn't appear to have been around for very long. It's only available on Arch-based distributions in the AUR at the moment. But I'm expecting it to make its way into like the Arch and Manjaro repositories in due course. It's based on Electron, and Electron in turn is based on Chromium. So I guess you could say that this browser is based on Chromium. Now, the fact that it's an Electron app, effectively, it is an Electron app, makes it, again, particularly interesting. You've got a browser that I think has its interface written in HTML5, which is kind of a bit interesting. And it does raise the idea of using HTML5 as just like a standard user interface toolkit. As a way, why not have every app as what is effectively a local web app? And of course, with HTML5, you don't have to worry about GTK and Qt. You lay out your application as you see fit. And also, HTML5, it strikes me as being significantly better for user experience for blind people and people that use screen readers rather than, of course, GTK or Qt. I think there's at least some potential there. But of course, the big potential that I see when it comes to things like Electron apps is that it's, of course, quite easy to port it across multiple platforms. And I'd rather have, if as a Linux user, the difference between me being able to use an application, for example, like Skype, is either through a web app or not at all, or through some crusty old app that hasn't been updated in 2 years, then yeah, the web app is all, I would choose the web app 10 times out of 10. And for example, the web apps can look really good. I mean, just look at the Telegram web app. I think that's pretty fantastic as well. And you would not really know that the Brave browser is a web app by looking at it. It looks in every way like a properly full-formed application, which it is. It also has multiple processes per tabs, so it's got that kind of base covered, so Firefox didn't have that. I found Twitch and Hitbox to work out the box, but it doesn't have out-of-the-box Flash support. The browser doesn't. So this is quite interesting. First of all, it means that Twitch now have implemented their HTML5 on their player, on their browser, which is on their website, which is quite good. You don't have to play it through like MPV or something. But it also means, like, I've been using it for a week, and I have yet to come across a website that requires Flash that doesn't have any kind of HTML5 equivalent. I've not had to switch out and go to a Flash supported browser like Chrome or something at all, like not once. So Flash is dying. Flash is on the way out. There is a beta support for Flash using the Pepper Flash plugin, but I haven't tried that, and because I haven't needed to. I've not. I just haven't stumbled across any Flash application or anything like that I've needed to use. It's worked on all events. So I've got to say, one of the other interesting features that the Brave browser has is that you can have different tabs as different sessions. So, for example, if you're tweeting away on one Twitter account and you have a second one that you'd like to open up, you can open it up in the same window. You just effectively right-click on a link, and then it's got, open in new tab, open in new window, open in private tab, open in new session tab. And you click on open in new session tab, and that will pull up the website in a window, in a tab, so not even in a separate window, that's a completely separate session than the other tabs in your browser session. And so this means that you can log into 2 Gmail accounts, 2 Twitter accounts at the same time. And it's great as well for making sure that, for trying out view, like for example, you can open it up as a substitute for clearing cookies and things like that if you want to make sure a website is displaying correctly. So there are a lot of uses for it. Now, both Chrome and Firefox have like session managers of a type, but this is by far the easiest implementation of it, and also the best in terms of user interface as well, because it allows it into one neat window, whereas for example in Chrome and Firefox they have to have separate windows for separate sessions. It's hardly a deal breaker, but it is it's almost something. It's almost worthy of note. So Brave doesn't allow any plugins, and I assume that this is either because it's a new browser or because it's, you don't necessarily need to have a plugin infrastructure for your browser to be a good browser. It just needs to be, have all its features covered. So if you're using a password manager like LastPass, it does integrate directly into the Brave browser, as do a few other password applications. And there is also a Brave password manager of itself that stores the passwords locally, which is quite good as well. So what else is there to say about it? There are it looks very nice as well. It looks a lot like a Mac application for a desktop Mac app. And Mac apps, whether or not you like them, I generally feel that they look pretty nice and pretty polished and pretty professional. And as does this particular Electron app. It looks. I keep calling it an Electron app, like as if that was what it was defined by, but it's not. It's just a browser. It's an application. So the reason I like the fact that it's based on Electron is that it's so easy cross-platform that you're not going to get, the Linux version isn't going to get left behind like it has done in some other browsers. Even Firefox, for example, a browser which is of course the default browser for the vast majority of Linux distributions, have brought out features on Windows that haven't been on par with Linux before. And obviously, like, that makes sense from a user-based standpoint. Well, they've got more Windows users, so they would put more time and resources into the Windows build. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. But then, with an Electron app, 90% of the work is done inside the Electron app in HTML5. So porting it from Windows to Linux or from Mac to Linux or whatever, it's a matter of wrapping it in Electron. That's literally all it is, and then a few shortcut configurations. Easy as pie. This is why I quite like Electron and Electron apps, and it's not just Electron; it's nw.js as well. Node.js was what it was used to be called, I think. So I do have a lot of time for these. It also makes if you bring in like JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, you've got like a nice little powerful sort of trinity of tools there to make some pretty decent applications that are cross-platform compatible. So Electron might not necessarily get left behind and I'm not saying that the Linux version of Firefox or the Linux version of Chrome is left behind. In fact, Google, they're a very mixed company in my book. They've done some really great things, but they've also done some very questionable things. But one of the things that they've got to be commended for is that the Chrome has always been, Chrome and Chromium have always been supported well on Linux. There have been complaints, of course, that it's not always been the easiest application to compile, and because I always use the binaries that come with my Linux distribution, that's not going to be too much of a problem that I ever have to face with. And there are other criticisms as well, but for all its faults, Google Chrome has been keeping Flash alive on Linux and been providing us with a pretty solid browser, not to mention the code that we use to build Electron apps with and other things as well. So I'm starting to ramble now, but I gotta say, I recommend giving it a go. I'm not going to necessarily say use it as your primary browser straight away, right off the bat. It's still a very new browser. I mean, it's still available only in the AUR in my Manjaro installation at the time of recording this now. But I do expect to see it grow, and I do expect it to to reach mass, because it's a good browser in its own right. You can find it at brave.com, so they were pretty, well done on getting that domain name, because I bet that cost them a pretty penny. Have a look at it, check it out. It's well worth a look. It's very, very promising. There are a few downsides to it, but considering this is a new browser, these are incredibly minor. Like a browser as new as Brave, I would allow the occasional crash, even actually the regular crash. And I would allow a lot more faults, but it's not. It's a very polished experience for the most part, even at the early stage that it is now. I've had the occasional crash when it comes to messing around with website notifications, which I assume is just, again, part of Electron and will be worked out in time. And also I have found an issue working with Google Sheets, which is the spreadsheet program out of the Google Docs suite. But this is a problem they know about, and they're actively working around it. But other than that, I've got to say, fantastic browser. In fact, I got to say, I think I'm actually possibly burying the lead as well. The lead that I'm burying is that it's a privacy-respecting browser. It is, of course, open source, and I believe that it's the same license as the Mozilla Firefox browser license, the MGPL, I think it is. And on top of that, it has many security features and privacy features. You can select them from the preferences menu in the same way that you would with Firefox or Chrome, but it also provides you with a menu. It's kind of very similar to the NoScript menu or the UMatrix menu, where it's a small menu you can pull down, and you can adjust the security settings on a per website basis, so that you can, for example, surf the internet without JavaScript. And then if you come across a website that needs it, it's just a matter of flicking down this menu and turning on JavaScript just for this one site. Or you could do the same thing for cookies. You can sort of set the default is only allow first-party cookies, so block third-party cookies from writing anything. And if a website requires third-party cookies to work, you can set third-party cookies to be allowed on just that one website. It allows it, and it also allows a whole bunch of other things as well. Malware tracking, has a built-in ad blocker. It's got a lot of features. It even has a tick, a counter to show you how many, what's being blocked on what specific website. So I've got to say, when it comes from a privacy standpoint, this is almost certainly the most privacy respecting browser out of the box next to Tor. But of course, Tor uses the Tor network, and the Tor network is very, very slow, and generally, it's not recommended using Tor for day-to-day use. Brave is great. Brave is a fantastic browser. That I can see it eventually becoming the browser that you use for day-to-day browsing once a few more versions are down the road. But keep an eye on it on the AUR. It's available on other distributions as well, but you'll want to check the website for that one. But check it out. Looks good. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to check out the podcast. I've started a podcast for this channel, something I've been trying to do now for probably the best part of a year, and you guys have asked for it numerous times. So it will be released on this channel. We're aiming to record Saturday evenings, but we're not fixing a timetable yet. I kind of want to make sure that I want to get at least one every 2 weeks out, but I'm going to aim for one every week. And by the time it's 2017, I kind of want like a full rigid schedule for not just the podcast, but for this channel. And also, in case you're wondering, this is in addition to commentary, which I will do whenever there's like enough interesting comments for me to talk about them. You can find the podcast and the commentary audio on soundcloud.com. So if you've got like a podcast thingy doodle on your phone that you use to listen to podcasts, I'm on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Chris Ware Digital, and also there's an RSS feed which you can find on that page, and I will try and remember to put it in the description of this video as well. But I will also release the podcasts on this channel as well. So if you prefer watching stuff on YouTube, then you won't miss anything. So that's about it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. We're probably going to talk a little bit more about the Brave browser on the next podcast after we've tried it for a little more. So far, really, really, really good. So, thanks very much for watching. That's about it from me today. Until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.